Welcome to the Activated Storytellers 41st podcast, April 26th, 2007.
This week's story is Water to the Ropes, a true story from Italy.
Hi, I'm Dennis.
And I'm Kimberly.
And I am the notorious Zephyr.
And together we are
the notorious Activated Storytellers.
And we are back with you. This week we are coming to you from Lake Zurich, Illinois. We've been touring around the Chicagoland area this week as well as last week and the week before. Kind of strange for us to be in one, well, we haven't really been in one city for 3 weeks, but we have been in kind of the Chicago area for 3 weeks now.
Feels like summertime now as opposed to winter, which it was last week.
Yeah, I'm scratching my head over this. I think it was just like last week we had 4 inches of snow, and now it's hot.
We're going through all 4 seasons in about a month over here.
They say that they have about 2 weeks of spring in the Chicago area, and I guess we're in it now. We have been taking some bike rides and taking some excursions around the area, and this week we got to go and visit Fermilab. We'll tell you a little bit about that.
Fermilab is a physics lab, a research lab, and by lab we mean a huge, huge complex, not just one little room. In fact, it covers about 10 square miles.
And we weren't quite sure what to expect, what Fermilab was exactly. We knew it had something to do with science. We thought maybe it was nuclear science, but we weren't quite sure. So we went out there and we had a tour. We had to sign up for a tour. We didn't really actually have to sign up, but we found out when the tours were. They do about, I think every 2 weeks or maybe every week they do a tour. And so we took a tour. And they took us basically, I guess you call it backstage. They told us about the architecture there at Fermilab and about what they do, the science of it all. Now, who can explain it?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what they do. They smash particles. Not atoms, but the particles that make up atoms. They smash them into even smaller bits. And our guide, a charming British lady, gave us an illustration about how you can think of this. I'll let Zephyr explain the illustration of watches.
Yes, her explanation of it was it's like having a grandfather who's got an old pocket watch, or you've got 2 grandfathers, and they've each got an old pocket watch, and you want to see what's inside that pocket watch and how it works. So you take the 2 pocket watches and you spin them around faster and faster, and then you smash them into each other, and the pieces will sort of scatter everywhere, and it'll be really broken up, and, some of this will crash into some of that, so you won't be able to tell exactly how it was made. But if you have enough grandfathers and enough pocket watches, eventually, when you smash them all into each other, you'll be able to figure out from bits and pieces how it's all constructed.
This is what they're doing on a larger scale to find out what these protons are made out of.
Yes, we don't know everything. What's really interesting is they smash these particles into smaller particles, and they end up with more weight than what they started out with, because some of the energy used to smash them is converted into matter, as according to Einstein's theory. They smash these particles together at very high speeds, in fact, almost at the speed of light. And in case you don't know what the speed of light is, it's very fast. It's 186,282 miles per second.
Now, we can't quite achieve the speed of light here on Earth, but it is like 99.9% almost the speed of light.
And these particle accelerators, and there are 5 of them here at Fermilab, they're like big circular tracks that the particles are spun around to smash into each other. And the largest one is 4 miles around.
Yeah, where else can you see something like this?
Nowhere. And in fact, you can't even see it here. They're invisible. They're particles. You don't see anything. No big explosions or anything. Although, one thing that I thought was kind of neat was antimatter, but didn't get to see any of that either. But they do have antimatter there that they collide with. They have antiprotons that they collide with.
And antimatter is the opposite of matter.
Yeah, they've made antiprotons that they collide with.
Mind-boggling. It's absolutely mind-boggling. We learned a lot there at Fermilab, so if you're ever in the area, we suggest that you go there. Now, one thing they do have up front, this has kind of inspired our story today, they have an obelisk in front of the hall where we met for the tour, and on the obelisk is a quote. It is,
Acqua alle funi.
And Acqua alle funi means water to the ropes. And there's a reason they put that quote on the obelisk. And we're going to tell you the story right now of water to the ropes.
In 1586, Pope Sixtus the Fifth, or was it Pope Sixtus the Sixth?
No, it was Pope Sixtus the Fifth.
Anyway, he decided to move an obelisk to St. Peter's Square in Rome.
I bet he first had to figure out what an obelisk was.
No, because something that big was very obvious. An obelisk is a fancy stone column, and this one was really, really big. It stood 92 feet tall.
About the same as a water tower.
It weighed 240 tons.
About the same as the current tax code.
And he wanted to move it about 275 yards.
About the length of a football field.
Wow, he must have a really big truck to move it that far.
He didn't move it himself. He hired an architect named Domenico Fontana.
Well, he must have been really strong.
No, he hired 800 workers, and they hired 140 horses.
And the horses borrowed 40 hoists.
Now, on the day the obelisk went up, in its new location, thousands of people were assembled to watch the workers hoist it up.
Hey,
what are you doing?
Where's my jacket?
I don't... Shh. But the people didn't talk.
Because the Pope had decreed,
Hear ye, hear ye! The architect, Signor Fontana, must have absolute silence so he can give orders to his workers. No one may talk. You hear that? Nobody can talk.
Nobody can talk.
On
Wow.
pain of death.
The crowd quieted down then. No one dared whisper, except for the boss, who shouted orders to his men. All right, pull that rope together, boys. Heave-ho, pull it tighter. Tote that barge, lift that bell, chop, chop.
But it was a hot day, and in the heat the dry ropes began to stretch like rubber.
And they were trying to pull the obelisk from off the ground up to a 90-degree angle.
Like a flagpole.
But with the rope stretching, they could get it only up to 45 degrees.
Like a 45-degree angle.
And there was a danger that the ropes might slip and the obelisk might fall and crush many workers.
One of the workers, a man named Bresca, had been a sailor, and he knew that dry ropes were stretchy, and he knew that you could make dry ropes wetter by putting water on them.
you can make dry ropes wetter by putting water on them.
Wow, that's deep, dude.
But did he dare tell anyone?
But do I dare tell anyone?
The Pope had commanded silence, and in those days, the Pope's word was law. If he said everyone had to wear socks on their ears, anyone with naked ears would be killed. So Bresca had to ask himself if he should risk his own life or the lives of dozens, or perhaps hundreds, of other workers.
Should I risk my own life or the lives of dozens or perhaps hundreds of other workers? The rope is really, really stretchy. Looks like it's going to snap at any second. What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? What should I do?
Finally, the obelisk slipped and almost fell.
And then Bresca could stand it no longer.
Water to the ropes!
You there. What did you say?
Water to the ropes?
Are you sure you didn't say nothing?
Did it sound like nothing? I said water to the ropes, man. Or, since we're Italian, acqua alle funi.
Don't you know the Pope has ordered the death penalty for anyone talking until the job is completed?
Yes, I know. Kill me if you must, although I'd rather a slap on the wrist. But whatever you do, pour water on those ropes. That will make them more taut. Or so I've been taught.
Well, very well, if it's so important that you speak up and risk your life. Water to the ropes, men!
And they did. And once the ropes were wet, they tightened up. And the workers were able to get the obelisk fully upright.
And then Pope Sixtus the Fifth, or was it Fiftus the Sixth? No, Pope Sixtus the Fifth had Bresca brought forth.
So, you dare to defy orders not to speak, eh?
Well, in a manner of speaking.
Jolly good, my friend. Your courage made this task possible, probably saved many lives. For this, I am going to make you a nobleman of the Vatican.
And in Italy, they still tell the story of the brave worker and how he spoke up when no one else would. And sometimes, when people want to talk about this kind of lone courage, they may say,
Take a stand.
Rock the boat.
Or Acqua alle funi, water to the ropes.
And that's the story of Water to the Ropes. We were introduced to that story there at Fermilab.
Yes, which is also appropriate because this story comes from Italy, and Enrico Fermi, the physicist after whom Fermilab is named, was also Italian. One of the organizers of Fermilab was an American physicist named Dr. Robert Wilson, and he's the one who really loved this story and loved the motto, and he knew the importance of taking a stand when no one else would, and doing something very courageous, and that's what Fermilab was. It was a courageous step.
Well, I think it's also an important stance in science, just to know, hey, don't always go. If you feel something's wrong, stand up and say, I don't think this is right. By the way, the Fermilab is, what city is that in? That's in...
It's in Batavia.
I knew that. It's in Batavia. And there is another attraction that we were able to go and do this week. Something a little unusual. It was miniature golf, which doesn't sound that unusual. But this miniature golf was in a very different place that you would never, ever expect miniature golf to be.
It is in the basements of Alle Funeral Home. They actually have miniature golf set up in the basement of the funeral home.
This is in Palatine, a suburb of Chicago. Alle Funeral Home has been in business for, I think, about 100 years now. Quite a long time.
Wow, I thought it was 42.
Well, 42 is approximately how long the miniature golf course has been in the basement.
I like their motto. The motto for the funeral home is, it's not all grim at Allgrim.
Yes, Allgrim is spelled Ahlgrim.
It has 9 holes, and they're, it's a small miniature golf, but very challenging.
Not only that, we came for the miniature golf, and we found some other nice little surprises down there in the basement as well.
First of all, it's free. We didn't have to pay a thing. We did call ahead of time. You have to call and make an appointment. And so we were there from 1 to 3. We had the place for 2 hours, and the miniature golf was free.
Also, they had several other games there. They had shuffleboard, they had old pinball machines, they had video games, they had ping pong, all free. And it was a very challenging miniature golf course. Some of the most challenging holes we've ever played.
Yes.
We couldn't even get the ball in the last hole.
Shh, don't tell them that.
And also, it was a thematic golf course. It was based around this haunted house horror theme, which is kind of strange. It had spooky sound effects playing the whole time.
And you know what else they had?
A dead end at one place.
Yeah, they had a dead end. I still don't know why you find that pun funny.
It just is.
Anyway, they also had hot chocolate and coffee down there in the basement.
Which was also free.
Roger Allgrim built this especially for his children to play when they were bored or whatever, and he didn't really mean to publicize it. He was afraid, for one thing, that people might be offended by it, by having this haunted house attraction or this fun attraction even in a funeral home. But word leaked out, and people loved it.
That's what surprises me. I would expect, I love the idea, but I would expect somebody somewhere to complain that it's in bad taste or whatever.
Well, I guess some people do consider it questionable taste because it has been written up in National Enquirer and National Examiner.
You can believe everything in National Enquirer.
They also had a special filmed by ESPN.
Right, and CNN. Yeah, they've had a lot of major press come and visit them.
So if you're ever in Palatine, Illinois, or in that area, give a call to Allgrim's Funeral Home and go check out the miniature golf course in the basement. It's amazing.
Sure. We'll put up a link on the website and help you find that information about Allgrim's and Fermilab. And we hope you enjoyed this week's show and this week's story. We'll be back with you, or at least 2 of us will be back with you next week. And
who is it that will be missing?
We'll let you think on that for a week.
Yes, we'll let you think on that for a week. So 2 of us will see you next week.
Until then, remember, Acqua, alle funi, water to the ropes.
The Activated Storytellers perform at schools and libraries nationwide. On stage, we use American Sign Language, physical comedy, imaginative props, and a giant, oversized book to bring the stories to life. For booking information, check our website at www.activated-storytellers.com, where you can also find out when the Activated Storytellers will be performing near you, read a story, or order one of our audio CDs. Until next time.